All right, so we ended with implantation of the blastocyst that secretes HCG that tells the corpus luteum to continue secreting progesterone and estrogen. Now, about after 2 months or 8 weeks, you have a growing embryo now, and the size of the ball, the original small ball of cells, becomes smaller and smaller. Becomes bigger and bigger, and by that time we call it the fetus. Now, this fetus will grow finger-like projections in the placenta. The placenta will start secreting progesterone and estrogen, and by that time you don't need your corpus luteum anymore, because your fetus has a placenta that will continue producing these two hormones. Now, as the placenta starts to produce progesterone and estrogen, this disintegrates. For some people, the switch is not accurate, so by the time there's no more corpus luteum, your placenta is not producing as much progesterone and estrogen. There's a tendency here of miscarriage. The fetus cannot attach properly into the linings, and it's because there's no progesterone and estrogen. The endometrium might thin. It's not going to be as thick as it was. Okay, so let's talk about this placenta. Let's look at a diagram for this. Okay, some things you need to remember from the report. So humans are placental mammals. Excuse me. Some animals are monotremes, meaning they lay eggs, and some are marsupials, means they have a pouch where the immature offspring can keep developing. Now, for us, so we are placental mammals. So what is the placenta? So this part right here, this layer right here, is the endometrium of the uterus. Remember, the blastocyst implanted itself into the walls of the uterus, so it further develops into your fetus. This becomes larger and larger. At some point, the surface area is too small to exchange nutrients between fetus and the mom. This is too small. So what happens is the placenta develops into finger-like projection called placental villi. So here, here, here. So placental villi attaching itself into the uterus. So you have more surface area here, here, here. Now, why do we need a large surface area? Because we need a large area to exchange nutrients and waste products between the fetus and the mom. So as you can see here, this part of the endometrium or the uterus chorion, that's still the mom's. The growing fetus, though, has its own amnion or amniotic sac right here. So this border here. Inside you have the amniotic fluid. It protects the baby. It provides cushion. And then you have this umbilical cord that extends into this placenta right here. So placenta is this layer, the point of contact between the fetus and the mom. So as you can see, the blood vessel of the baby, the capillaries of the baby, is in close proximity to maternal circulation. So these are maternal blood vessels. They're not touching, but they're very in close proximity. So if I zoom that in, here, these are the blood vessels of the mom. Then these are the blood vessels of the baby. So we have a very, very close proximity here. In the book it says it's about 5 microns, so very close. So what diffuses out obviously are waste products, and what diffuses in are oxygen and nutrients for the growing fetus. So make sure you review figure 16. What diffuses out into the mom's blood vessels are capillaries, and what diffuses in to the fetal capillaries. Okay, so this space right here is called the placental barrier here, that small distance from the mom's blood vessel to the fetal blood vessel. You're a very small embryo, then you keep growing into a fetus that has that placenta. Then after 9 months, okay, the mom is ready to give birth. So we call that process parturition. Now, parturition starts as a negative feedback and continues and finishes as a positive feedback. How is it negative feedback? About 9 months, there will be a sudden decrease of estrogen and progesterone, which tells the brain to produce oxytocin. Oxytocin triggers the contraction of the uterus wall. Okay. When it starts to contract, then you have that premature labor. Remember the balloon demonstration I have. So as it starts to contract, you have more oxytocin in the that reaches the brain, and the brain triggers more release of oxytocin from the hypothalamus. So it's a positive feedback. So you have ever increasing levels of oxytocin. Therefore, just to, towards parturition, you have stronger and stronger contraction of the uterus that dilates the vagina until it's large enough for the baby to start coming out, start going out. I mean, so head first, shoulders, and then legs, and then you have the umbilical cord. You cut it, and the baby's now out. What I wanted to insert here was, as you have more oxytocin in the blood to help in giving birth or childbirth, the brain also secretes another hormone, prolactin, as I've mentioned. It's to prepare the mammary glands for milk production. Then further sucking of the baby in the nipples triggers another positive feedback for the brain to continue to produce prolactin, so you can continue to milk the baby. And 11.4 ends with an application here which says gestational time is correlated with the size, body mass of the offspring. So gestation is how long are you inside the womb. So for humans, gestation time is about 9 months. The joke here, it says, thank God you look like your dad. I was worried for 2 years. So for elephants, the gestation period is longer, much longer, 2 years. And however, when they give birth, their offspring are not like us, like small babies, not fully developed. It's fully developed. In fact, after a few hours, they start to walk. That's the same case for your horses, for your giraffes. So the longer the gestation time, the more developed the offspring is when you give birth. Okay, that's it. Let's review our concept map right here. So you have production of sperm and egg. Sperm will fertilize, either external or internally. That fertilized egg will implant itself in the walls of the uterus. That blastocyst that implanted itself will start releasing HCG to further have high levels of progesterone and estrogen. After 8 weeks, the fetus, sorry, I had to look at the time. The fetus develops its placental wall, and it will continue to release progesterone and estrogen. The placenta is needed so we can increase the surface area of exchange of material between mom and the growing fetus. About after 9 months, then you give birth. It's a process of a negative feedback, starts as a negative feedback, continues and finishes as positive feedback. All right, that's it for 11.4.